If you have been a lot like me, you have been functioning as a coal mine canary for the human collective. Um, you have been showing without even consciously wanting to or rebelling, but you have been showing what is severely toxic in our society, in our family systems, in any kind of group conscious. And as a result, uh, maybe a lot of us have been a scapegoat for being that canary. We have been scapegoated because um, we were simply too confronting for either our family system, for maybe, I don't know about you guys, but I was never able also in my work history to function in um, to work for a boss or to function in a group of people, because in the end I would always rub against people's hair, and I would get people would get defensive and withdrawing, and just really mental abuse, really. Um, And that is what I wanted to talk to you guys about. We have been mentally abused for such a long time for just being so raw and open, because we couldn't be any different. At least I couldn't. Um, in what I felt and what I saw. And this time frame is really asking of us to step out of that shadow, to let go of the shame, because we have been saddled up with so much shame um, for being this mirror, being the mirror to your parents, maybe being a mirror in a school system, being a mirror in a working environment, and always being um, shit in the mouth for that. I'm sorry to say, but that's really what always has happened. Um, a lot of you guys, because you are an empath, because you are not here to conform to old ways of being, are severely traumatized because you came here with a completely different quality of frequency, a completely different quality of energy. I want to state here that it has nothing to do with being better or others being worse. I'm just stating out that you have a different frequency, a different energy. That energy was really not built on the old world, in the old ways of doing. And we start to, since a few years, start to see why we were scapegoats, why we were the canaries of the mine. The first 25 to 30 years, I really was so depressed, and I couldn't understand what am I doing here? What is the purpose of all of this? Constantly being worked against, scapegoated, fired for just being too honest, just questioning things, I'm not going to follow up in things if my heart is not in it, if I don't understand why, if it's against my moral ethics. That is who I've always been. I cannot be anyone different. And then on top of it, we get shamed for being the difficult ones in society, the difficult ones or the damaged ones in our family system. But what we are simply always have been doing is just being a mirror for what everyone else have been shoving under the rug. And you couldn't in your family system keep the depression behind the mask, keep the anxiety behind the whole circus of pleasing or pretending or keeping the grief at bay. I remember when it's been years since we've last sat together as a family with Christmas. I would just halfway cry, as a child, I had regular like breakdowns, and I would be sitting crying from the depths of my soul, and that would go on for half an hour. And my parents then asked me what it was, and I was even then already um uh, how do you say that, adapted enough to just say, oh, I don't know. But of course I knew, but I also knew if I'm going to tell them, um they're going to say it's not true, or don't be so sensitive, or you're exaggerating, or everything would have been swiped off the table. So as a young child, I already got well trained in not being honest about why I had those outbursts of deep grief. I got trained during gatherings with people to give answers that were fitting the status quo of the social conduct I was in. All of this had led ultimately to my huge nervous breakdown slash awakening when I was 30 years old. I couldn't do any of it anymore. It was my nervous system was done. I was done with adapting to um, everything. It's so big. I had become one big adaptation until I started to let out my anger, to grieve, um, to just walk outside looking like I'm depressed, because I was depressed. I wasn't. I couldn't put any mask on anymore. And what that did to people was astonishing. Instead of people getting compassion, becoming compassionate for what you're going through, you are getting even more, um, you're becoming more isolated. You become even, if you, yeah, I talked about it a lot with you guys. When you go for therapy, people make you feel like you did something wrong. You're some kind of criminal. It is really mind blowing what kind of mental abuse people go through who are traumatized. Everyone's traumatized. Let's face it. But people who choose not to mask anymore, they choose not to play the game of hide and seek anymore, because it simply became too heavy, and it's insane. It's insanity. And this torture, I know a lot of you souls feel that same torture of being so open, being so pure, wanting nothing but the best for everyone else. And luckily also the last years for myself also. And what you get out of it is resistance, um, people sticking their heads in the sand, and sometimes even aggression, because you attack their illusion, their sandcastle. But this is crumbling down, you guys, and I hope you start seeing the value of your light. I hope you start seeing that everything you have acted out on, everything you've shown, whether it was to your parents, whether it was on a cocktail party, whether it's whenever, just be proud of the person that you are. And don't let all the resistance that you have gone through in your life bite on your sense of self-worth, because I know a lot of you guys, including myself, are struggling big time with a sense of self-worth, with feeling secure in the self, feeling inner safety, because of you couldn't turn your head. Uh, Everything you did was confronting. Everything you did was out of sorts. And we are feeling that big time right now, because there is so much healing happening. And for you guys being the canaries in the coal mine for the human collective, there's so much grief on being humiliated and shamed for showing what was, showing what is. And for us to really start blossoming, we really need to start letting go of that projection, that projection that has been put on us so many times. And I know it hurts like hell to feel through it. My heart, oh my God, I feel so much grief coming out of always, how do you say that, always being, I don't know how many steps ahead, always seeing the bigger picture, and choosing to always level, adapt. So I wouldn't make people anxious or nervous or whatever. It's so done. That game is so done, and there's grief that goes along with it. There's such a deep grief of not having to be able to just be you and be loved for it. Just be loved for your purity, be loved for you, and acknowledged in your emotions, and not being shamed and put all sorts of diagnosis, I don't know what, because you cannot handle the insanity of our human collective anymore. It goes deep, but we need to let go of this. We need to let go of that shame in order to heal further. I, for one, am so unbelievably proud of us. I'm so unbelievably proud of you. I love you guys. You are such beautiful souls. And I hope you feel my love.